Peace, peace, people. Welcome to Empowerment Unveiled by MLJ. I'm your host, Monisha Holley-Cherry. Today we have Miss Candice Denise Owens here with us. She's a creator, she's a coach, and she has served as an inspiration to myself and plenty of other women out there. If you'd like to see more about what she does, you can follow her on Instagram or check out some of the other podcasts she's done. But today, I would like to talk to you about about who you are. Like, who is Miss Candice Denise Owens?
Such a good question, right? I thank you for having me, first and foremost. And I would probably say, to sum up who Candice Denise is in one word or two, is life student, or student of life, rather. Because for me, a lot of what I have experienced and grown from and continue to grow from happens because I'm just learning from life. And so essentially, I can put all these different titles on myself, but I feel like I'm just a forever student where I'm just growing, learning, and just trying to live this life that I feel like I'm meant to live in the best way possible.
Alrighty, I love that. So as someone, I would like to ask you, as someone who has built a community around self-care, how do you personally approach conversations about self-care with your friends and your loved ones?
For me, it's more about showing than telling because I feel like when you just live that way, it's not something that I necessarily have to approach them about. And a lot of times they've approached me about it because they've either seen me doing something to take care of myself or to, better nurture myself. And so they may say, I heard that you're going to, I heard you recently say that you were going to a certain kind of class. What made you take that class? And so by me doing certain things, it becomes a conversation starter all of their own. I don't necessarily have to say, hey, have you thought about taking care of yourself? Now, in moments, have I had to, maybe with a friend or with a relative, because I see that maybe, you know, they could be making some decisions to help better nurture who they are and their bodies, their mind, their soul. Of course, I think any person who cares about someone does that. But I try my best not to approach them. I try to just take care of me and be a living example of what that looks like in hopes that it inspires them or even makes them want to have conversation with me about it.
Okay, so what I heard you say is you don't necessarily like approach them with it. You just try to let them see you like doing it yourself.
Yeah, yeah. I do my best to just be a living example of what self care looks like because I think it's easy to tell someone or to say something, but most people want to see you and how you take care of you. What does that look like? And I think that alone allows a door to be open for us to have conversation because many times they've approached me about the things that I'm doing and how they have seen it benefit me or they're curious about how it's benefiting me and they're inspired to either do the same or try something similar.
I've never thought about like, I guess, teaching people how to do it by not necessarily teaching and just being an example. Do you
hmm
ever find it challenging to like just not necessarily like approach people or talk about it so much when they ask?
I think anything that you love and that you're passionate about, you naturally just want to kind of, as they say, vomit at the mouth about it, right? You just want to talk about it all the time. But I, over time, have learned to read the room, so to speak. So if I see that maybe somebody's eyes are getting a little glassy because, I'm talking too long about something, I'm like, okay, let me stop. Or if I see that somebody's really engaged and they keep asking questions, then I keep talking about it. I think it can be challenging just trying to stop myself from talking about something I love, but I have tried my best to just really be mindful of paying attention to how much I'm sharing and how much I'm listening when someone is, talking to me about it, because I also don't want to monopolize the conversation.
Right, right. So how did you even get into the type of work that you do? I guess, would you consider yourself like a motivational speaker? Because I
Yes.
see speaker, but I didn't see motivational.
Right.
So,
So it's funny because I feel like I fluctuate between motivational as well as inspirational. So
mhm.
I just leave it as a speaker. I also am brought in to speak about self care. So sometimes I'm a self care speaker, you know. So I just leave it as speaker because I will speak about, I guess, what is aligned with my platform or my mission. And so I love inspiring people. I love motivating people, encouraging people, but I also love helping people know how to take better care of themselves. And so getting into this really did not be, it wasn't something that I planned. It wasn't like, oh, I want to be a speaker. It was, I was just doing my thing. And people were asking me, I would share on social media and talk about my own journey, and people would ask me like, wow, you're really inspirational, you're really motivational, would you mind coming and speaking here? So it kind of came to me. And I feel like a lot of times when there's something that you are meant to do, you won't always have to go find it. In a lot of ways it'll find you. And so I feel like this, when it comes to the speaking component of my business, really found me. And people, and I'm naturally just that person, like my friend to my friends, my family, you're not going to be around me and I'm not going to either cheer you on or support you. That's just naturally who I am. And so I've just been very fortunate and blessed to utilize my voice to do that for others as well.
Okay, was this something that was like always in your path, or did like you start off doing something else and then eventually like moved into like the coaching and the speaking?
Yeah, so my background is in project management and event planning. So I was an event planner for 11 plus years. And then I realized that I wasn't necessarily taking care of myself the way that I should. And so I needed to do better because if not, I was going to burn myself out at both ends of the candlestick. And because of that, it allowed me to just see the areas in my life where I needed to nurture me better. And so that really became how I got here because as an event planner, you are hired to take on someone else's stress. And I realized I wasn't doing anything with my own stress though. And so I was like, I've
Mm,
got to get a handle on my life before I can help others with their like events, their life. And, that's how that came about. I eventually transitioned out of the event space and moved more into creative directing. And as I was creative directing, I would work with a lot of female entrepreneurs in that role. And as I was talking to them, I would ask them how they're doing. They would tell me how their business was, but they wouldn't tell me how they were. So it just showed me
mm,
myself. I said, I remember that person. I remember talking about my business because I wasn't taking care of me because that was the thing I was taking care of was the business, but not myself. And so
right.
therefore, it started leading me into a different direction and another pivot. And I said, you know what? Maybe I should go into self care coaching. Maybe I should coach women on how to take better care of themselves so they can take care of their businesses and everything else. And so that's kind of how I got here.
Yes, and that's so very hard to do as an entrepreneur myself. I can definitely resonate with that. So I want to kind of switch gears a little,
Mm-hmm.
because I am often the person that my friends come to talk about like their struggles, but I normally don't really have the space to talk about my struggles with them.
Mm-hmm.
So, do you think that there is a way to talk about self-care like with our friends that I might be missing?
Mm.
Because I'm a great listener, but it's hard for me to, I guess, really be able to talk about what it is that I'm going through, or like when I do bring up self-care, they're always like, well, yeah, I do this and I do that, but that's not enough. And I'm just like, well, what can I do to help you if you're not, taking what I'm telling you and like actually doing it or trying it?
Yeah.
What am I missing?
I think when it comes to any kind of advice or guidance we give people, people have to be ready to receive it. And you have to also, as a person who is giving, have to recognize when you need to maybe create a boundary, because it's like I can't keep repeating something, or I can't keep wanting something more for someone else than they want for themselves. Because
Right.
anybody who truly wants a change, or they really want to do something, they're going to take intentional action. They're going to do something, whether they do what it is that you said or they do something else, they're going to do something. And so I think first off, you have to look at yourself and be like, am I just, am I a broken record here? Am I just continuing to give energy to something that just doesn't need my energy? Because that's more about you than it is about them, especially if you know the nature of the person. You know, this person's going to take it, they're not going to do anything with it. So why am I continuing this same cycle, using my brain power, you know, my energy to help them, and they are not helping themselves? But also when it comes to yourself, on the flip side of that, you know, being able to receive and having that space to talk. I think sometimes we're not open enough with our friends to say, I want to have different kind of conversations with you. I want to be able to talk about some of the things that I need as well. Because as much as I want to be there for you, I do feel like I need someone there for me. And we have to be able to have those hard, uncomfortable conversations. And people can't help what they don't know. So they don't, if they don't know that you're in need of this, they can't help with that. And that's something that I just personally learned in my own life. It wasn't until I started opening up and sharing what I actually needed in my friendships more that I was able to get those things.
How do you start that conversation though, especially with someone who doesn't seem like they really want to like listen to that type of stuff?
Well, I think that in itself, you have to read the room, right?
Yeah.
So it's like, don't force yourself to, or don't force someone to have a conversation that they're not ready for. Because even if you're trying to force them to do something, then you, okay, say they listen, but are they actually listening to give you something that you need? Or are they just listening to check off a box to say, okay, I listened to you. All right, now
Yeah.
what? Right. And so I think sometimes we're trying to force people to be something for us that they're not ready to be, or they're not able to be. And so that's why we can't put all of our needs of certain, or all of our certain needs, we can't put them into one friend. And so that might mean going back into your friend pile and seeing who really is someone here that I can feel safe enough and they are willing to have this kind of conversation with me. You know, it may not be the person that you thought it was going to be. It may become a new friend that you met. You know, it may be someone who's in a organization with you that actually becomes a friend. It may be someone who is a neighbor that you didn't realize would lend a listening ear. But sometimes I think we think because these people are our friends that they have to be the one, and they may not be able to be the one.
Right. Ooh. That was you said a lot there, like honestly, cuz I always tell my friends like I'm not going to keep having this conversation with you because I feel like you don't want the help. Like,
Right.
but in the same sense, me trying to be a good friend, I feel like I have to be that person to have that conversation. So, I guess like I gotta read the room more because it's tiring, it's
Yeah.
draining, it really is.
Yeah.
And honestly, like a lot of my friend, I'm a mom, and a lot of my friends are also moms,
Mm.
and because I'm a mom, I find it hard to find ways to take care of myself. So
Mm-hmm.
me trying to tell them is like I don't know, a pot calling the kettle black. Like, I don't, I like, it's like, I'm telling you how to do this, but I haven't found a way to do
Mm.
this myself
Mm-hmm.
either. So,
Mm-hmm.
how can I make it more, how can I make it more organic? Like, I don't know how to phrase the question per se, but
No, I
I
think I
feel
get where you're
like,
going.
okay.
You're like, you know, essentially, I think it really boils down to boundaries
Yeah,
and building healthy boundaries for yourself,
okay.
because we want others to, again, be something that either they're not ready for, they don't, know how to, and we all have to travel our own journey. And there's no way that you can help someone else if you are barely keeping afloat yourself. And that's
Right.
in any capacity, whether it's financial, whether it's mental, emotional, you have to make sure you save you first so that you're in a better place to help save them if that's the case. And so again, going back to what I originally said, sometimes the best thing that you can do is I can show you better than I can tell you. I can
Right.
show you how to take care of yourself by how I take care of myself. So if they see you being a good person to you by making sure you stay on top of your rest, you're eating like you need to, you're moving your body, you're staying on top of your mental health, even as a mom, right? If they see those things, you don't have to actually tell people what you're doing. You don't have to say, you need to do this. It's when you talk to them, it's one of those, when they say, how are you? I'm doing really good today. I had a really good conversation with my therapist, or I'm doing really good today. I got to take a 15-minute walk outside because I really needed to clear my head. Those are things that people will start to pick up on when they notice when you're talking, you're sharing that this is what you're doing for you. And then the conversation starts to open up a little bit more about, and they see how it's helping you. They notice that you seem a little bit more at peace today. Why is that? Well, it's because I've been doing some deep breathing and I've been taking 5 minutes to meditate before I feed the baby or whatever. Those types of things I think are how you create boundaries without feeling like you're expending yourself to help others when you're actually in need yourself too. Sometimes we've got to be a better friend to ourselves than we are, or we've got to even be a friend at all to ourselves because we spend a lot of time trying to be friends to others, but we have to make sure that we're being a friend to ourselves first.
Right. That's that's definitely something that I have to get better at for sure. Um, Oftentimes though, it does feel like trying to take care of yourself becomes like more of a task. Like, how do you change your mindset from looking at it as a task versus looking at it as something that is like for the betterment of yourself?
Mm-hmm.
Especially when you have so much going on, because we have three small children. So it's
Yeah.
like, that's something else I have to like put
Right.
into my day.
Right. I think it's one of those things. For me, it was seeing this as a necessity, not a task. So it's like
Okay.
breathing. Like if I put my hand over my mouth right now and I'm not going to be breathing, right? If I put my hand over my mouth and my nose, I'm no longer breathing, which means I'm no longer living. I'm going to
Right.
eventually stop myself from living. Therefore, I have to breathe. Self-care is one of those things like breathing. You have to do it. It's a necessity. The same way breathing is a necessity to live, self-care is a necessity to live. It's a necessity to be able to not just take care of yourself today, but in the long term. Because again, we think about our responsibilities, but it's like, how good are you going to be to those responsibilities, whether they're your children, your job, your business, if you're no good? And so when I started seeing that self care was a necessity, the better I am to me, the better I am to everything else. So I'm a better
Right.
friend. I'm a better daughter. I'm a better partner. I'm a better businesswoman because nobody wants to work with a cranky person. Nobody
Right.
wants to be in a relationship with a cranky partner. Nobody wants to be a parent, have a cranky parent. But that's what they're going to get. They're going to get that, right? A short-tempered, frustrated, tired because you're not taking care of you. So it's like there has to be a mindset of this isn't a task. This is a necessity. The same way we think about drinking water is a necessity. We have to stay hydrated is how we have to start thinking about taking care of ourselves. And it's not about like what more can you add to your day, but rather how can I better manage my day that it also includes me in it.
Right. Oh, so do you think well, would you consider self-expression as a part of self-care?
I do think so. I mean, I guess like if you're a creative or just when you say self-expression in which format.
I would say like the way you dress. And as for me, like I do create clothing too, so I see that as like maybe an outlet, like that's my art. So one of those two things, but mostly like I would say the way you dress yourself.
Oh, yeah. I definitely feel like self expression in those regards, and probably many others, are a form of self care. Because to your point, this is an art form, this is an outlet. So it's helping you, have some time for you. I'm sure when you're creating the clothing, you feel good. It's like a dopamine shot. It makes you feel happy. It makes you feel, good. It's a mood booster, right? So yeah,
For
that's
sure.
good for mental health. That's good for your emotional health. So it's absolutely a form of self care. But also in dressing, when we like what we're in, when we feel good in our bodies, when we feel good in the clothes that we're in, that's also a confidence booster. That's a self esteem booster. And so, yes, that again adds to your self care because when you're more confident, when you have healthy self esteem, you show up differently in the world. You show up as a different kind of person, one who is excited and one who is hopeful when you just even feel like you like what you're wearing, because it is a
Right.
form of expression and it is a part of self care. I think when we wear things that we don't feel comfortable in, we're not only putting a barrier on our bodies, right, because we don't feel comfortable in how we're wearing it. We can't move the way we would like to. We can't do the things we would like because maybe it's too tight, it's too big, it's too whatever. So that becomes a barrier. So it restricts you in what you can actually physically do. But I also think that when we're wearing things that don't work for us, whether we don't like it, it doesn't look good on us, we don't feel good in it, that it can become a barrier for you in how you show up. It can put a barrier on your confidence because if you're wearing something that you're a little self conscious in and you're in a meeting and you don't feel like what you're wearing is working for your body or you don't like it, then it may put a barrier on how you show up in that meeting. Maybe instead of being as vocal as you would like to be, because you don't want to bring attention to yourself, you kind of shrink yourself. And so you become a bit more quiet and you kind of, silence yourself more than you should because of the fact that these clothing pieces are just not working for you. And so clothing can play a major role in our lives and how we show up, not just in how we wear them, but in how they wear us.
I like how you said how they wear us. Can you talk about that a little bit more? Like what is it when the clothes are wearing us?
Yeah, so I feel like, it's like a piece of expensive garment, right? You put something on and you're like, oh, because it has a certain price tag, you just assume that it's going to magically make you a mate, like just, top tier. And it doesn't. And so in that regard, it's wearing you. You're not wearing it. You're not owning it. It is owning you. You put it on and you're looking for it to do something for you. When in actuality, if you bought it and you believe that you enjoy the fabric, you enjoy the design, you enjoy the designer, whatever, whether it's big a price point or a small price point, you're going to own that. You're going to confidently wear that skirt, whether it was $2 or $200. And so now you're
Right.
wearing it versus it wearing you because you're looking for the clothing to make you be someone. You're looking for it to make you feel a certain way, to make you show up a certain way. When in actuality, it doesn't start with the clothes, it starts with you. And so when you put them on, now you own those clothes versus those clothes owning you.
Right. So we're gonna kind of switch gears again. So I know there are certain people like I look up to as far as like fashion and all of that goes, but I'm interested to learn about who your role models are and some people that have inspired you during your journey of empowerment and self-care.
Yeah. So I feel like someone in my day-to-day life is my best friend. She's really, really big about, it has been for a very long time, about just being mindful about her mind, her body, and her soul. And so I feel like I have learned in watching her and having conversations, but also probably just in watching how she has created boundaries when it comes to certain things in her life. And so, you know, staying on top of her peace, making sure that's not interrupted. And so I feel like it's been inspirational in many ways for my own life as well. But I think, growing up, the people that probably inspired me were not even people that I actually knew, but they were just kind of people that either they lived in my neighborhood, and so I didn't really necessarily know them, but I would see them. I'd see Miss So and So, out doing her morning walks, again, I didn't know her name. I just saw this woman walking. It was like a thing that she did. And so, not knowing that I was probably paying attention and taking that in as a child, I noticed, okay, huh, subconscious was like feeding off of that. Like that's something that probably maybe I should do when I get older, like walk, like that's a thing, right? And so I feel like it's not always these notable people, but it's the people that are in our everyday lives that are doing things that you don't always pay attention to or don't always realize it's actually feeding you in ways that you don't realize. And so I feel like the people that I just grew up around, whether I saw my aunts going to get their hair done, or get their nails done, taking out some time for themselves, even though that's self pampering, but they still took out time for themselves. If I saw a family friend who was really big on taking vacations to go and reset themselves, that was something that I'm like, ooh, when I grow up, I want to make sure I can take vacations where I can go rest and relax. And so I feel like those types of people really inspired my own self care.
Okay. Do you ever feel like it's a challenge to kind of talk about these things because you do it so often? Like, are there ways that you can give us advice on how to make it like fun and supportive when we're having these conversations with other people?
Yeah, I think probably like how you were saying with clothing, like it's just something that you enjoy. I think when you enjoy something naturally, it comes out in a fun way. So, talking about probably talking about the bloopers, talking about maybe I decided to take a Pilates class for the first time and oh my gosh, the thing, let me tell you, I was in a beginner's class and I was feeling like a toddler, right? Like lost, didn't know what to do. I think talking about how it benefits you, but also talking about those scary moments or those weird moments, or I tried something that I've never done before. I think it makes it have a level of fun to it as well and shows people that this is not, some regimented thing. This is as simple as I have a walking group that I'm a part of, and they're elderly women. These women are older, like well older than me. And, we're about to go out to lunch because that's what they do. So they've invited me, the young girl, as they call it, to come to lunch with them. And so I think those types of things are fun, talking about the stories that they share with me on my morning walks with them. So I feel like when you are talking about something you love, it naturally is fun for you, but in order to make it fun for others, bring them into the experience. Talk about the experiences, talk about the highs, the lows, the funny, the weird, the oh my gosh, I can't believe. And that gives it a little bit more fun as well.
Okay. I can see how that will work. It's like bringing it up in a joking way and like like you said talking about the bloopers and all that. Then they don't look at it so much as oh she's lecturing me on self-care.
Yeah.
So I can see how that would definitely be like a way easier way to bring it up. Um, to our listeners, what are some ways that you bring up self care with your friends? Does it ever feel like a challenge, or do you have ways to make it fun and supportive? Let us know in the comments and share your thoughts using Empower Conversations. So, what is a small act of self care that you would encourage your friends to try?
I would say try your best not to look at your phone immediately when you wake up
That's a
because
hard one.
yeah, because it we don't realize how it already starts our day for us. When we're looking at images or visuals, or you're finding out what happened overnight while you were asleep, and you may have maybe you're waking up with feeling excited about the day. You're ready to conquer and soar and all these things, and then you pick up your phone and you see all the craziness that's going on, and it immediately takes your mood down. I think we have
Right,
to do better and be more mindful, self included, about not giving the day our immediate attention.
right,
Giving yourself, because we give the day our immediate attention and then it takes our day away from what we wanted. We allow the day, it's like the clothes, we allow the day to manage us versus us managing the day. So I would say try your best, your first 5 minutes of being up, right? I'm not saying like your first 30, start small. build your way up. So your first 5 minutes, allow that to be time where you just do something for you, whether it's take a few deep breaths to do a few stretches. Like, don't make your first reaction eyes open, grab phone. Like, make it eyes open, stretch, eyes open, brush teeth. Like, do something for you before you say, okay, let me go into the day.
Right. So we're gonna have a little fun here. We're gonna do a quick self-care Q&A, some rapid fire questions. So I don't know if you ever done rapid fire before,
I
but
have.
okay, so you know how this goes.
I
So
do.
the first question is, what's your go-to self-care activity on a busy day?
Deep breathing.
Deep breathing. Okay. For how long?
Probably anywhere between 3 to 5 breaths.
Okay. Best way to remind a friend to care for herself without sounding pushy.
Caring for myself.
Okay. What's one thing that you've done for self-care today?
I did some stretching.
Okay, cool. So that's all the rapid fire questions for today. But listeners, what is your go-to activity on a busy day? What do you do for self-care when your days seem very full? Let us know in the comments. MLJ self-care will be the hashtag for that one. And share some tips with us and other listeners on how you get your self-care in during these really busy times in life. So, what strengths do you bring to the table when you're supporting like the women in your circle?
I feel like a level of vulnerability is a
Mm,
strength. Letting them know that, hey, I don't have it figured out in every way either. That you're not alone. Same here. I think when people feel included, to know that they're not on this island by themselves, there's a strength in that. They say there's strength in numbers, but there's strength in knowing that you're not alone. So I feel like being vulnerable with them about where I am, even in not on just the good days, but in the not so good days.
right. How do you reach a level of vulnerability? Because if like, well, me, I'm very like I guess standoffish a little when it comes to like telling people how I feel on the inside. So how do you get past that?
I think for me, it's feeling safe. I think the safer I feel with someone, the easier it is to be vulnerable. I don't think
Okay.
that I have to struggle with vulnerability if I feel safe and secure. And safe meaning I feel like they are going to not judge what I'm saying. Safe feeling like I can say this and it's not going to be said everywhere. It's going to be here. Safe in the fact that they are not going to try to make me feel anything different outside of what I'm feeling. And so I feel like when I am naturally safe, you get comfortable. Think about when you go to someone's home and you just feel at home. You sink into the chair a little bit easier. You're not sitting up as firm and as straight. You just kind of get more cozier. And so I feel like
Right.
that's what vulnerability is like. When you are with someone who feels like home to you, it's easy to sink into those conversations and to kind of unveil those things that you may not be able to share with everyone else.
Okay. What advice would you give someone who is like newly into this self-care and empowerment journey?
Don't compare your journey to someone else's. Take, what you do for you is going to work for you, because self-care is not one size fits all. So just because someone else is a part of a certain kind of, fitness center doesn't mean you have to do that. Just because someone works out 5 days a week doesn't mean you have to do that. You need to find out what works out for you and do that. Be consistent about what does well for you. Maybe you're not into, running. Maybe you like to walk, then walk. The goal is just that you take care of yourself. So don't compare, and also take it one step at a time. You don't have to go hard as soon as you start. Start small and work your way up.
Cool. I thank you so much for sharing your insights with me, well, with us today.
You're
And I
welcome.
know, like, all the people who listen to this will feel more empowered and more willing to bring up like self-care in their friendships and their relationships and just be able to feel more natural and supportive in doing so. So I really thank you for your expertise. And
You're welcome.
side note, on one of the other podcasts, I heard that you are a member of Zeta Phi Beta Sorority Incorporated. Is that true?
It is true. I am a proud member.
Oh, well, as am I.
Oh,
So we're
hey.
actually sorors, which is
Love
cool.
it.
Oh, and look, I even have my little tea in my Zeta cup
Oh, you
today.
sure do. I love it. And your Z5B mug. I love it. Well, hey,
Yes, thank.
Soror.
Hi. So we could talk about that another time. I would love to have you come back on at some point.
Awesome.
Listeners, if you enjoyed today's episode, start the conversation about self-care with your friends and let us know how it goes. Join the conversation here with Empowered Friends, Empowerment Unveiled by MLJ, and tag us on social media. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and share this video. And please, if you would like to see more of Miss Candice Denise, please follow her social media. Can you let them know where they can find you?
Yeah, you can find me on Instagram at Candice Denise and on TikTok at by Candice Denise.
Okay, cool. And again, thank you so much for this
Thank
talk. I
you.
really did learn a lot through the conversation that we've had. And thank you for taking the time out again to join me in this journey of empowerment and creating this community of women who want to be empowered. And yeah, I hope to hear from you soon. You will be hearing from me for sure.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate it. And thank you for creating conversations and spaces like this to have these kind of conversations.
Of course, and I will take everything you've said in my journey forward and hopefully inspire more and more people to join us on this journey.
Absolutely. I love it.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Peace, peace, people.